Hey guys, it's me, Takani, and today I'm going to be talking about school fundraisers and why I think that they're child labor in disguise. In a classroom, kids should be learning, they should be exploring, they should be growing. Too often they're not. They're being turned into salespeople, pressured to sell overpriced junk just to fund their own education. This isn't just a distraction from school. This is theft. It's stealing their time. It's stealing their childhood and it's destroying their future. What exactly are school fundraisers? And how did they evolve into a billion-dollar business? Chapter 1. The Poverty Gap and the Rise of Fundraising. In 1959, we had a staggering 22% poverty rate. This meant that schools were chronically underfunded, forcing teachers into impossible choices. Do they buy essential supplies and upgrade their textbooks? Or do they do maintenance on their building? And this was the reality for many schools. In 1965, that number from 22% poverty rate, it dropped to 17.3%, thanks to President Lyndon B. Johnson and his war on poverty. It introduced programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which I'll call the ESEA. The ESEA provided federal funding to schools serving low-income communities, marking a significant step towards addressing the educational inequality. But it wasn't enough to meet every school's growing needs. Schools leaned heavily on community-driven fundraising, such as bake sales, car washes, raffles. The proceeds were used to cover basic expenses and provide classroom supplies. That small town bake sale is the only way that they're going to afford to upgrade to new textbooks. It's the only way that they're going to afford to be able to repair the leak in the cafeteria. And those bake sales, parents were pressured to bake dozens of cookies or other baked goods, and kids were dragged along to sell them to the neighbors, a community scrambling to fill the gaps left by inadequate funding. After World War II, the baby boom caused a surge in student populations, putting even more pressures onto schools to meet these increasing demands. As the populations grew and schools became much larger, bake sales and car washes were becoming insufficient. Of course, companies didn't just see an opportunity. They manufactured one. They preyed on the financial vulnerabilities of schools, offering a system that, while it's profitable for them, ultimately perpetuates a cycle of underfunding and dependence. They offered schools what seemed to be an easy solution: pre-made products, marketing materials, and a cut of the profits. A deal that lined everyone's pockets while shifting the fundraising burden onto the children. A strategy that still remains largely unchanged today, other than the fact that it's on Facebook now. Schools have to rely on these fundraising programs to pay for essential things like playground equipment, sports uniforms, and even field trips. At face value, it seems like everyone wins, but this is a carefully crafted illusion. And as I said earlier, it shifted the burden of funding the schools onto the students and onto the communities. These fundraisers rely on unpaid child labor, all while masking the real problem: systemic underfunding. Chapter 2. How fundraising really works. Kids aren't just selling products. They're being coached to use emotional appeal, weaponizing their innocence. My school really needs this, they're told to say. Students are then blessed with the chance to sell these overpriced, often unnecessary items to their friends and family, manipulating them into buying something they normally wouldn't. And to motivate the kids, they dangled these cheap prizes in front of their face, from light-up toys to Bluetooth speakers, all depending on how many sales they made. This incentive structure puts all the pressure on the students to sell. Meanwhile, these companies profit regardless of whether a kid hits their goals or faces crushing disappointment. Schools typically receive only 30 to 50% of the profits, while companies use the rest for more fundraising events in wealthier school districts. Wealthier schools can raise thousands for extravagant extras, new sports fields, state-of-the-art labs, while these schools in low-income areas struggle to afford even textbooks or keep the lights on. This fundraising system doesn't just exacerbate inequality, it engineers it. The schools in poverty, they don't have the disposable income to spend $20 on some garbage just so their kid can win some slime. Less people buying goods means less fundraising there. And don't worry about the profits that are going right back into the company's pockets. These companies claim that they're providing a service, but their bottom line is profit, pure and simple. They're profiting off of the backs of children and the desperation of underfunded schools. It's not charity, this is exploitation. And while schools are scrambling for these meager returns, what else is happening? Programs like free school lunches, a lifeline for many families, are under constant attack. And that's not a coincidence. This is a calculated strategy to dismantle public education. Chapter 3: The ethical dilemma of unpaid child labor. Imagine a child feeling ashamed, not for anything they've done, but because their family can't afford to participate in these fundraisers. They see these other kids with prized keychains, their slime, their fancy pencils with the fuzz on the end, and it's just a constant reminder of their exclusion. This isn't just about the money, it's about a child's sense of belonging and their self-worth. It's being chipped away by a system that preys on their vulnerability. School fundraisers might seem harmless, but they've raised some serious ethical concerns. You have your unpaid labor, where kids are exploited as unpaid salespeople, working long hours while companies profit. You have the emotional pressure. Kids face anxiety and shame if they don't sell enough, intensified by public competitions. And there's the economic disparity. Low-income families are systematically excluded, reinforcing feelings of inadequacy and deepening the divide. This isn't just about school fundraisers or cheap toys. It's about a system that perpetuates inequality, forcing children to pay the price for these systematic failures. The same families that can't afford that overpriced wrapping paper are the ones that are relying on the free school lunches. This isn't just a double blow. It's a deliberate act of cruelty. It's a system designed to perpetuate inequality, where the most vulnerable are forced to subsidize their own oppression. Schools are forced to rely on private companies for funding, and underfunded schools in low-income areas struggle to raise any money, while these wealthier schools raise more than they ever needed, widening the gap in the educational opportunities amongst the children. What's the core issue here? Schools shouldn't need to resort to school fundraisers. Public education should be adequately funded by the government, not subsidized through kids selling junk. Some might argue that kids will learn valuable skills with fundraisers, but at what cost? Are these skills we want them to learn? Are we really okay with teaching them that it's okay to exploit child's labor to make up for societal failings? Are the skills that only some kids learn worth it for the kids that might fail and struggle with feeling inadequate? Chapter 4: The toll on kids and education. Fundraisers don't just distract from education, they actively undermine it. Instead of engaging in meaningful learning, kids are forced to become salespeople, hawking the overpriced trinkets door to door. This time, it's stolen from their education, it's stolen from their childhood, it's time that they will never get back. All while we continue normalizing the idea that public education is a financial burden that the children must shoulder. We're essentially teaching children that it's their job to make up for systematic failures, and that's unacceptable. That failure is our government, refusing to prioritize public education. That failure is forced on these schools to compete for scraps, all while corporations rake in billions. It's a systematic problem that demands a systematic solution. This failure isn't just about underfunded schools. It's about a political agenda that actively seeks to dismantle public education. They cut funding for essential programs, push for vouchers that funnel taxpayer money to private institutions, and then they blame the public schools for not having enough resources. It's a deliberate strategy to weaken the public education and create a system where only the privileged can access the quality schoolings and thrive. At the surface, school fundraisers might seem like a harmless tradition, but they come at a significant cost. They exploit unpaid child labor, widen social inequalities, and pull the focus away from learning, all while lining corporate pockets. This isn't just about cookies and catalogs. It's about the government forcing schools to rely on these programs in the first place. What if the trillions of dollars we put in the military we invested into our schools properly? What if we treated education as a fundamental right, not a privilege? What if we stopped exploiting children and started demanding better? What if we actually valued public education? What if we ensured that every child, regardless of their background and regardless of where they live, had access to a nutritional meal and a quality education? What if we stopped treating children's well being as a bargaining chip in budget negotiations? It's time for a change. This isn't about fundraising. It's about the soul of public education. It's a fight that we can't afford to lose. Because if we fail, what future are we leaving our children? What choices will they have? What kind of world will they inherit? These are questions we have to confront, and they're questions I am going to be exploring in another video. Join me next time, and I'll examine how, in a world facing unprecedented challenges, technology often fills the void left by this crumbling system. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, please like it, share it, and maybe subscribe to the channel. Your support can help amplify this message and make a real difference. It's crucial that we work together. In the comments, I'll be pinning a comment with resources and ways to get involved. Some might be as simple as signing a petition, and I think all of our futures are worth the effort.